Hello and welcome to my channel. This video is going to be about what you can expect in Sagittarius season of the year 2020. On November 21st, the Sun will enter Sagittarius. While the Sun was in Scorpio, we were very focused on intimacy and creating deep connections. However, when the Sun shifts into the sign of Sagittarius, we start to question these connections that we have, and we question the truth and the validity of the intimacy that we have established. So being passionate about something and feeling connected to something is all good and well. However, Sagittarius season represents taking this thing we're passionate about and this thing that we're connected with and really understanding it for what it truly is. Connections are incredibly important. However, if our connections cause us to have to deny our own inner truth, is that connection really good for us? That is basically what we assess during Sagittarius season. We assess the things that we're involved in, and we assess what this thing really truly is in its purest essence and whether it is good for us or not. Sagittarius season is a time for travel. It's a time for learning and educating yourself. It's a time to take yourself from where you currently are and to put yourself in a new place so that you can have a new perspective. Sagittarius season is about expanding your horizons and finding out a truth other than from which you currently know. Because if you're going to stay still and if you're going to just stay in one perspective or one state of being or in one place, you will never find out the truth that is actually out there. So Sagittarius season is about finding that truth that's out there. On the 28th of November, Neptune will end its retrograde motion in the sign of Pisces and it will proceed to go direct again. When Neptune is direct, it basically casts a shadow over a certain part of our life, allowing us to experience this sector in our life in a state of disillusionment. So it's quite important to go have a look at which house Neptune is moving through in your natal chart, as this will basically show you which parts of your life you are going to live in a sense of disillusionment moving forward. So what I mean by this is, while Neptune was in retrograde, the truth of what we are and the truth of the different areas and aspects of our life was made very clear to us. Because Neptune is the planet of illusions, when it is in direct motion, it basically allows us to experience that part of our life through rose-colored glasses. So while Neptune was in retrograde, wherever Neptune is in your natal chart, that area will indicate to you what area of life might have been tricky for you. For example, if Neptune is moving through your first house, if you're a Pisces rising, you might have been having issues establishing your identity and figuring out who you are, what you're meant to be, what you're meant to do. Figuring out the way that you should present yourself to people might have been a little bit tricky for you over the past few months. So for example, Neptune in retrograde would have caused us to have to really face the reality of who we are. We have to face our insecurities. We have to face our more negative side. Hiding our insecure thoughts, hiding our more negative emotions would have been incredibly difficult while Neptune was in retrograde. However, when Neptune proceeds direct again, it's like we get to live in a state of ignorant bliss again. So all these insecurities and all these bad things about yourself that you might have really been doubting over the last few months will fade away. Depending on how you look at it, it can either be a good or a bad thing. It can be a good thing because not being aware of your more negative sides, not being aware of your insecurities, and just having a state of confidence in which you can be productive and in which you can operate through in your day-to-day life is a lot more beneficial for productivity and in order to actually succeed in life. However, being aware of your insecurities is also kind of important because that allows you to work through them and to deal with them. So like I said, it can be either good or bad depending on how you look at it. The Neptune retrograde periods are necessary because these periods allow us to reflect on our insecurities. It allows us to reflect on the side of ourselves that aren't in alignment. And like I said, when Neptune goes direct again, we don't reflect that much anymore. While Neptune was in retrograde, escaping reality was almost impossible. However, when Neptune is direct, escaping reality is very accessible again. So when Neptune is direct, we are more comfortable with illusions, and we find it really, really tricky to face the truth. We'd rather just prefer to live in a world of illusions where we deceive ourselves as to our true reality because we feel more comfortable living this way. When Neptune goes direct on the 28th of November, reflect on how you have been feeling since about the end of June up until the 28th of November. How have you been feeling about yourself? How have you been feeling about a certain area of your life or a certain part of yourself? Bear in mind that Neptune in retrograde allowed you to see a lot of truths about yourself and the situation that you might have been a little bit disillusioned by before. Moving forward, there's things that you had to deal with, and those issues that you had to go through are still there, even though they feel like they aren't. But because you've allowed yourself to really, really go deep into them during the retrograde, because you've allowed yourself to really feel it and to experience it for what it really is, you understand it better now, and you can proceed while Neptune is moving direct with better awareness about yourself and this area of life, even though you are basically just going to push it aside because you don't really want to deal with it anymore. It's going to be like you've just had enough. On the 30th of November, there is going to be a full moon and a penumbral lunar eclipse in the sign of Gemini. A penumbral lunar eclipse is basically when the Earth blocks a part of the sun's rays from hitting the moon, and you can see a shadow cast over the surface of the moon for a short period of time. When there is a full moon in Gemini, it is important that you reserve your judgments and your opinions. It is important that you open your mind and you allow yourself to perceive new things, to perceive new ideas, concepts, and opinions. We all have our opinions and we all have our beliefs, but will we really learn anything if we don't open ourselves to new opinions and beliefs? That is basically what this full moon in Gemini is about. It's about exploring something through the eyes of another. It's through exploring something through the ears of another and just through the life of another. When we are able to reserve our opinions and just listen without judgment, that is when we truly, truly learn. On the night of the full moon, you'll likely find that you will be presented with some kind of information. You might be presented with a whole new experience or a whole new opportunity, or you could meet a person that just allows you to see life much differently. When this does come to you, it is quite important that you open your mind to this and that you don't close yourself off. Closing yourself off will just cause you to go through another cycle where you limit yourself and where you're limited in opportunities. However, opening yourself up to what is going to be headed your way will actually open doors to new possibilities. A full moon in Gemini happens when the moon is directly opposite the sun. So that basically means the sun is in Sagittarius and the moon is in its opposite sign, which is Gemini. Those of you that are Sagittarius can have a bit of a tricky time during this full moon, as you will find yourself dealing with a lot of opposing emotions inside yourself. Maybe you feel that you want to be a specific person, however, your emotions are in conflict to this. Your actual emotions might be pushing you in a different direction in that which you consciously want to go. That's why being a Sagittarius during the full moon in Gemini can just be a little bit tricky. Those of you who are Geminis will likely enjoy this full moon because the moon will conjunct your sun. That means that you will be able to really experience your full being. Your conscious mind and who you are consciously will be in a very harmonious combination with your emotional side. So you will feel very connected with and in tune with that which you want. You'll just feel confident and you'll just feel like your emotions are in a good place. However, this might not be the case for Sagittarians. While the moon is in Gemini, we are going to feel much more sociable. Even people who are usually more quiet and more introverted are going to feel more keen to be sociable and to communicate with people and to possibly go out a little bit. We'll feel very pushy and keen to communicate and get our point across to people, and we might not allow other people to speak. So remember to just pause and allow other people to also say their say while the moon is in Gemini. The 1st of December, Mercury will enter Sagittarius. While Mercury was in Scorpio, we really wanted to dive deep into something and unearth the mysteries and the hidden elements about it. However, when Mercury is in Sagittarius, we want to explore as many topics that we don't know much about as we possibly can. Our thinking will shift from a more emotional way of thinking to a more positive and intellectual way of thinking. It is important to bear in mind that while Mercury is in the sign of Sagittarius, Mercury is in its detriment. That basically means that while Mercury is in Sagittarius, we don't really communicate very appropriately. We're not incredibly kind and considerate when we're communicating. We're very abrupt, we're very to the point. We kind of like to say what we want to say, and we don't think of the consequences of what we're saying. Mercury in Sagittarius can also bring out our slightly more philosophical or our slightly more religious sides. So that is where we just start thinking more about the meaning of life, why we're here, where we come from, where we're going. We question our faith, we question our beliefs. Mentally, we will be thinking a lot about that. This can also be a weird time where if we say something, it can really be blown out of proportion. And the next thing you know, you've maybe mentioned something about the weather, and now everybody's having a deeply philosophical or a deep religious discussion regarding this one thing that was mentioned. So conversations can go very deep, and you will notice the more philosophical side in everybody will come out during Mercury in Sagittarius. It's basically like when you will make a comment on social media about just something random, and then somebody completely misunderstands it and blows it out of proportion and starts a whole religious or philosophical rant about the meaning of life on social media. However, you weren't even talking about that, you were just mentioning something random about your life. The 14th of December, there is going to be a new moon and a total solar eclipse in the sign of Sagittarius. When there's a new moon, it is when the sun and the moon are in conjunction with each other, so they are right next to each other. A solar eclipse occurs when the moon is directly in alignment between the Earth and the sun, and a moon casts a shadow over the Earth. A new moon is usually a time to take things slowly. It's a time for introspection. It's a time to look inward and to reflect on where you're headed. Because this new moon is going to be in the sign of Sagittarius, you might be feeling much more optimistic about where you are headed. You'll feel more optimistic about yourself. Maybe you've been feeling a little bit down regarding certain aspects about yourself lately, and on the night of the new moon and the eclipse, it will be as if you're able to see the bright side again. Maybe there will be some kind of sign or blessing sent to you that tells you that things aren't so bad, that you are on the right track, that what you're doing is the right thing to be doing. On the day of the new moon, you will also likely have some kind of random sense of bravery within you to try something new. You might feel some kind of newfound sense of bravery where you really want to step out of your comfort zone and try something new and daring. Insecurities that you might have will fade away and you'll just want to do it. This new moon in Sagittarius will allow us to reflect on ourselves, and this reflection will lead us to some kind of realization that will let us take some kind of risk in our life that will really further us. We will allow ourselves to be taken out of our comfort zone so that we can actually progress. Without being taken out of this comfort zone, without trying this risky thing, progression can't happen. Usually, one is advised to not act impulsively. However, during this new moon, feel free to be a little bit impulsive. The 15th of December, the planet of love will enter Sagittarius. Venus shifting into Sagittarius makes us much more blunt Venus shifting into Sagittarius gives us a much more blunt and straightforward approach when it comes to love. We don't take love very lightly, and we want to know the truth about every aspect of our relationship. We want to know the truth about our partner. We want to know who they truly are, what their intentions are, what their motivations are, what their feelings are, what their thoughts are. We don't want anything to remain hidden, so we will go on some kind of pursuit to ensure that we can figure everything out about our relationship. If single, you will feel very, very unsatisfied with your more superficial kind of interactions. So you'll really, really want to know who a person really is. You'll feel very irritated by this superficial persona people put on, and they don't really open up about their ultimate truth. Connecting with another person and understanding their ultimate truth and who they are is going to be very important while Venus is in Sagittarius. This is actually a really good time to take your loved ones away to a new location and go on like a little vacation on them. When you're away from the stresses of life and when you're allowed to just be in a really nice and fun place together, you'll see people open up more regarding who they really are because they feel more relaxed. On the 15th of December, Chiron will proceed with its direct motion in the sign of Aries. While Chiron was in retrograde, we likely experienced some kind of existential crisis in regards to the house that Chiron is in our natal chart. For example, if Chiron was moving through your second house, you would have likely have felt that your finances was in a state of complete disarray and you have no control over it whatsoever. If Chiron was maybe in your seventh house, you can feel like relationships and partnerships and the person you love is something that you have no control over and you don't know how to approach this. Whatever house Chiron was in retrograde in your chart will indicate to you which area in your life you felt entirely powerless over. When Chiron goes direct again, you'll slowly feel that your power in this area of your life will come back to you. You'll feel like you will regain your power once again. A Chiron retrograde also shows us a very big part of our inner child that has been wounded. So for example, growing up, you were likely taught certain things. You were warped to have certain beliefs and to behave a certain way, and now as an adult, this actually really impacts you negatively. For example, if Chiron moved through your second house, you could have some really negative and limiting beliefs regarding to finances that your parents taught you. If Chiron is moving through your seventh house, you can have incredibly limiting beliefs regarding to relationships that your parents might have taught you that you need to unlearn. So figure this out. Figure out what part of your inner child has been wounded and how is this limiting you as an adult now. The 17th of December, Saturn will enter Aquarius. Saturn was in Aquarius from the 1st of March until July this year. However, it dipped back into Capricorn and now it's going to proceed in the sign of Aquarius for the next 2.5 years. While Saturn was in Capricorn, we really questioned and we observed and assessed the structures in the world around us. We assessed governments, we assessed the political systems. We questioned our careers, we questioned our sense of responsibility and our sense of how we do things in our day-to-day life. Saturn placed in Aquarius is very well placed. When Saturn is Aquarius, we're really going to look at and question the community around us. We're going to question our friendships. We're going to question the current social structures that exist within this world. We're going to question why things are operating the way they are. With Saturn in Aquarius is a very important lesson to learn. Saturn is a planet that likes to rule and it likes to control. Now, for the first portion of Saturn being in Aquarius, those who are prone to controlling tendencies are going to want to still control people in their life. They're going to want to control their movements, they want to control who they are, and just control many different facets of their life. However, after the first few months of Saturn being in Aquarius, these people are going to realize that other people cannot be controlled, and that the need and the want to have to control others reflects a very deep internal problem. People who are control freaks and people who want to have this power over other people are going to be hit with a very hard reality next year. They're going to realize that they can't control anyone, and the only person they can really be in charge of and that they can really control is themselves. This is going to be a very tricky reality for a lot of people to come to terms with. While Saturn was in Capricorn, we were very focused with accumulation and we were more focused on quantity. During Saturn in Aquarius, we realized that having all these things and accumulating all these things means nothing really if it is not of quality. We will find ourselves becoming more picky, we'll become a bit more choosy regarding who we interact with and who we socialize with. We will assess whether the actions, motivations, and intentions of the people we interact with and socialize with are of good moral standard or not. If not, we're likely not going to want to associate with these people. Whereas we might have previously interacted with people and dealt with people even though we know that what they represent is not good or who they aren't really good, now we will refuse to. We will realize in order to reach a point where the social structure on Earth is a fair and beautiful one, the social issues on Earth need to be challenged, they need to be faced and tackled, and they cannot just be ignored. We will see other people differently. We will see our friends and our community differently. We will look at people and we will see them through different eyes while Saturn is in Aquarius. This is basically a time where we go from focusing on the I to focusing on we. So we're going to focus a lot on improving the lives of those within our community around us. We will realize that the world will not become better. The people in the community around us will not become happy and live a happy life if we do not change the way we do things and the way we actually approach things. The 19th of December, Jupiter will also enter Aquarius. While Jupiter is in Aquarius, we become much more allowing to let ourselves open our minds to things we might have previously felt a little bit hesitant to open ourselves to. Whereas we might have previously only been aware of one side of the story or one perspective, we become aware of all sides of a story and we become aware of all the perspectives. When we behave in a cooperative, harmonious, fair and tolerant manner towards other people, we will likely attract many good things into our lives while Jupiter is in Aquarius. However, if we're going to be selfish and if we're not going to consider others, we will notice that your life will likely be quite tricky and a little bit challenging while Jupiter is in Aquarius. Jupiter represents what makes you expand. Jupiter represents your luck, what brings you luck. And while Jupiter's in Aquarius, you're not going to have any luck if you're going to be selfish, if you're going to be intolerant to other people. So Jupiter in Aquarius is all about learning to become accepting in order to attract good things into your life, in order to attract abundance into your life. We also go about new, different ways to do things. We don't approach things with the same tried and tested method that we approached things in the past. We think of new ways, and this is how we want to do things. So in a sense, we can become quite big risk takers while Jupiter is in Aquarius, because we kind of have somewhat of a now or never approach, and we just want to achieve and succeed and proceed to getting things done. We will take the risks. We don't think about the repercussions because the possible benefits will outweigh the possible negatives anyway. With Jupiter in Aquarius, we become a bit more understanding as to who other people are. We become more understanding as to why they make the choices they make, why they live the lives they live, and we also kind of realize that people can't help who they are. They are who they are. Who are we to disagree with or dislike other people for just being who they are? Aren't we the problem then, not them? There's going to be a big focus on human rights and equality. We are going to want to create a sense of equality in the world around us. Now's the time where we're really going to push out any outdated structures in this world that really just acts as a negative to the people in this world. So if there is any kind of structure in this world that is not fair and causes suffering, we will relook at this and we will look at ways to change this. We will notice a massive rise and increase in people who want to live a more spiritual life and people who want to change things in the world around them. People are going to become more aware, they're going to become more conscious. A lot of people are going to wake up while Jupiter is in Aquarius. They're going to realize how there is a lot of suffering in this world and things need to change. A lot of people will start to see life differently while Jupiter is in Aquarius. Now, Saturn being in Aquarius will kind of bring some kind of resistance to change. However, Jupiter being in Aquarius will cause this change to have to happen, regardless of the resistance, the actual amount of people that is for change happening, and the amount of energy that is behind a change happening in this world is far greater than the resistance there is to the change. So eventually the want and the need to make the change will overpower the actual resistance towards the change, and things are just going to end up changing and there will be no more resistance anymore. While Jupiter is in Aquarius, we feel more comfortable in exploring our minds. We feel more comfortable in exploring the weird sides of our personalities that we usually would avoid or hide. We feel more comfortable in being who we truly are. We will realize that society has really been limiting us in terms of not allowing us to live our life according to our truest being, and we will start living according to this true being much more while Jupiter is in Aquarius. We won't want to be involved with anything that's restricting to us anymore. If we're in a job, a relationship, or any kind of dynamic within our lives that restricts us and just kind of doesn't allow us to expand ourselves and progress, we will likely change this while Jupiter is in Aquarius. Whereas in the past, having certain beliefs or being a specific kind of person who likes to do certain things might have been a bit scary. It might have been almost inaccessible because you would have been judged or ridiculed for being that person. Now you will notice that there are many more people like you who fear being ridiculed and judged for that which they believe or just for who they are. While Jupiter's in Aquarius, you'll be able to connect with more people that see life the way you do. You'll be able to find people that are similar to what you are, and you will realize that you are not alone and there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. People will become more willing to be open now, and that is why it will be more accessible for you to find the people that you can connect with. Because, like I said, people are actually going to be more open regarding who they are. Okay, and then the last transit for Sagittarius season will happen on December the 20th when Mercury enters the sign of Capricorn. Now, when Mercury shifts into Capricorn, our thinking becomes a lot more serious. We become a lot more business-minded and we focus a lot more on the serious side of life, such as our responsibilities, the tasks and duties that we need to focus on. Our ability to focus becomes much stronger, so we're able to work harder and to concentrate longer on one thing. Our sense of motivation to achieve is also much higher, so we're more willing to work hard and to apply our focus and our time and energy onto something because we wanted to get somewhere. We want to achieve in it. We want to do well. Our minds will mostly be focused on the more business and professional side of our lives. So we will be thinking of ways that we can possibly improve our career, ways that we can improve our profession, ways that we can become more happy and content in our workplace, but also end up receiving more profits and being more successful. This is a time where we focus a lot on our professional goals, as well as just the goals that we want for ourselves in life generally, and we put things into motion to achieve these goals that we have. Okay everyone, so that is what you can expect this Sagittarius season. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you thought of this video in the comments, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see some more astrology and spirituality videos. I'll see you next time. It's a well-known fact that creativity can reduce stress, increase focus, and promote problem-solving abilities. So I've been thinking of unique ways to help my viewers and supporters tap into their creative inner self. You probably think coloring books are just for kids, but you're wrong. They're a great creative outlet for busy adults who may not be the next Picasso, but who enjoy putting pen to paper to see what comes of it and to explore their creativity. I've recently launched the ultimately relaxing astrology coloring book, which is an adult coloring book designed to promote relaxation and focus. The book consists of 12 unique artworks inspired by geometry and mandalas, one for each zodiac sign. The book comes as a digital download for my Patreon supporters, which allows you to print as many copies as you'd like and color to your heart's content. Each image takes about an hour or two to complete. Here's the one I just finished. A Virgo woman inspired by the spirit of Africa. Check the link to my Patreon in the description below to get your coloring book.